Hello, my name is Lee Johnson Sr. and I am interviewing Elder Eugene King, who is my pastor of the Highway Christian Church, and this interview is about the Northwood Theater sit-ins and protests that was in 1963. Pastor King, can you tell me how old you were when this incident happened in 1963?
I was in my late teens, early 20s.
Can you tell us a little bit about this incident that was in relationship to the Northwood Theater protests and sit-ins?
Well, this incident sprang from an effort that Morgan State was involved in getting the movie theater to allow us to come in just with as other regular people, and it was an effort that was put on by the school to get that done. In dealing with the sit-ins and the protests, were you aware that there was also professors as well as different students at Morgan State University that held certain offices that was in this protest and sit-in too? I'm not sure about professors being involved in the sit-in, but there were other students, and I believe that a big sponsor of this was the student government of Morgan State University.
Okay. Were there any violence as a result of these protests and sit-ins?
I'm not aware of any violence. One thing that was done before we went out on the street, we did have meetings where we had prayer, and we also were told that if any of us could not restrain ourselves when certain things were done to us, then those individuals should not be involved in the protest. And so we were warned about things that could happen. And again, each of us had to decide for ourselves whether we could do this and not respond in a negative way.
So Pastor King, during this particular time in 1963, there was other protesters and freedom riders and vote registration campaigns that was going on at the same time. Do you know much about the other different protesters that was going on down in the South?
I have some awareness of things that were going on, yes.
So is it safe to say that in 1963 Baltimore was still trying to keep segregation and the Jim Crow laws in effect dealing with colored people in Baltimore?
I think that's a true statement, that there were efforts to try to keep us out of certain housing areas and certain places of entertainment. So yes, there was an effort to keep us out of those places.
So this area that we're talking about, the Northwood Shopping Center, during that time was mostly predominantly white residents living in that area. Is that true or not true?
I think that was true. That's a general true statement.
Okay. So this school was the center in a residential area that was predominantly white, the Morgan State College.
As I remember, yes.
Is there anything else, Pastor King, you would like to add to this interview that I have not touched on pertaining to the sit-ins and the protests dealing with the keeping of colored people out of a lot of the theaters during that time, particularly the Northwood Theater?
There was one thing that was that came to mind, and that is we were allowed to shop and do other things in that shopping center, and it's just that the movie theater held out for as long as they could to keep us out of there. So that was one thing that was a little perplexing to us, is that the other merchants allowed us to come in and shop, but the owners of the theater didn't want us in.
Okay. Pastor King, back in 1963, were you aware, or did you come across in a different, in your different travels, the sightings of only white signs and only colored signs in the different public places that you traveled?
I don't remember seeing any of those signs in Baltimore. I did live in Augusta, Georgia in 1967, and I did see some signs that had remained white only and colored only kind of thing, but I don't remember seeing that in Baltimore.
So is it safe to say that Baltimore is a better place today as opposed to in 1963?
Oh, absolutely. I think Baltimore now is a more open city, and to my knowledge, there's no place that we can't go publicly. So I think Baltimore has made great gains in terms of allowing those people of color to do anything that we have a mind to do.
Now, as I researched this topic, I also noticed that there were several professors and students that was actually locked up for the protests and sit-ins. Were you among those few that was jailed during that time?
I was jailed, yes.
Okay. Can you kind of elaborate on that just a little bit more?
The effort was to put as many of us in the jails as could be done, to overflow the jails and to force a decision on opening the theater. So there were any number of us that were incarcerated, and there was such a strain on the city that efforts were made to force the theater owners to finally open up to us, and then we were let go at that point.
So it's safe to say that Baltimore today has equal rights for most of their black residents.
I think that's a true statement. I'm not aware of any place where people of color are barred from frequenting.
Well, Pastor King, I truly thank you for this time for this interview on this topic dealing with the Northwood Theater sit-ins and protests that was back in 1963. If you don't have anything else to add to this interview, this will conclude the questions that I had prepared to get some details on that incident dealing with African American history here in Baltimore, Maryland.
One thing I will add, that incident wherein I was jailed, it had an impact on my employment and certain things that I wanted to do when I was in the Army. And there was a time where I had applied for top secret clearance, and the folk that were checking out me had to get a statement from me about my incarceration for my sit-in. But I always felt proud about what I did, because that was something I did to help the cause of my people.
And so in my conclusion of this interview, that statement that you just made is something that you feel very grateful for, about to have participated in a worthy cause for the black race.
Absolutely, and I was always glad that I did what I did, and if I had to do it again, I would.
Okay, Pastor King, I thank you very much for your time and your cooperation with this, and this concludes this interview, and I thank you very much.
All right, I'm glad to do it.